A long time ago, in a village in Europe, a husband and wife lived together. The husband worked in the fields, while the wife took care of the household. However, she was so foolish that she would ruin every task she took on. The amusing part was that she always blamed her husband, saying, "Why didn't you tell me beforehand? I'm not responsible for this mistake. You are." One day, by chance, their neighbor sent them a leg of lamb. The husband said, "Wife, make kebabs from the leg. It's been ages since we've had meat. We'll go to the forest and enjoy the kebabs together." The wife replied proudly, "Oh, I make kebabs so delicious that you'll keep licking your fingers. You go to the fields, and I'll bring the kebabs once they are ready." The husband then said, "All right, but make sure to bring a jug or a flask of wine along. There's a barrel of wine in the basement. But be careful when opening the lid. Don't let the wine spill." The wife scoffed. "Oh, husband, do you take me for a fool? As if I don't know that if I leave the lid open, the wine will spill. Now, go on. I'm getting late for cooking." Hearing this, the husband left for the fields, and the wife began preparing the meal. She lit the coals, marinated the leg with yogurt, salt, and spices, and placed it over the glowing embers. As one side turned red, she flipped it over. Sitting on a stool, she smiled, thinking about how delicious the meal would be. Then, a thought crossed her mind. The leg is still cooking. In the meantime, I should fetch the wine. With that, she picked up a jug, left the leg on the fire, and went to the basement. She placed the jug under the barrel and opened the lid. Just then, she remembered something. Oh, no. The door was left open when I came downstairs, and there was a dog outside staring hungrily at the roasting leg. What if he snatches it away? Panicked, she ran upstairs, leaving the barrel open. And what did she see? The dog had indeed grabbed the leg and was running away with it. She grabbed a stick and chased after the dog. But could she really outrun it? Within moments, she was out of breath and had to stop under a tree to catch her breath. As she sat there recovering, she suddenly remembered the wine. Alarmed, she rushed back to the basement, only to find the barrel completely empty. Wine had spilled all over the floor, forming a small river. She sighed and thought, "Oh, well, at least there's still some wine in the jug. Today will be fun after all." But when she looked down, her joy faded. The jug had also tipped over, and the remaining wine was gone. "If my husband sees this mess, he'll call me a fool," she thought anxiously. "He'll say, 'Not only did the wine spill, but my wife didn't even clean it up properly.'" She started worrying about how to dry the floor. Then she noticed 2 large sacks of flour nearby. Without thinking, she emptied both sacks onto the floor to soak up the wine. But as she swept the mess, she accidentally kicked the jug, breaking it as well. Frustrated, she threw the broken jug away and quickly cleaned the basement. By noon, when the food still hadn't arrived, the hungry husband came home. He asked, "I told you to cook the leg, but you didn't bring the kebabs. What happened?" The wife sighed dramatically. "Oh, husband, what can I even say? The dog ran away with the leg. When I ran after him, the wine spilled. I had to use 2 sacks of flour to dry the floor. And while cleaning, my foot hit the jug and it broke. But just go to the basement and see how spotless I've made the floor." The husband shook his head and said, "Oh, my dear wife, what were you thinking? Why did you leave the leg unattended? And if you had to run, why didn't you close the barrel first? Now the meat is gone, the wine is gone, and even the flour is wasted. You could have dried the floor with ashes instead." The wife said, "If you had told me all this earlier, we wouldn't have faced this trouble. You always complain, but only after the damage is done. The loss wasn't because of me. It was all your fault. It's funny how you make mistakes, yet you blame me. After this incident, the husband thought to himself, "This woman is extremely foolish. What if she gives away all our savings to someone? It's better to bury our money somewhere safe and warn her not to go near it." With this in mind, he dug a deep hole in their garden, buried all the money, and called his wife over. He said, "Listen, if you ever go near this spot or touch the money, you'll have to face my anger." The wife replied, "Oh, husband, do you think I would ever go against your word? After all, I have to answer to God as well. Don't worry, I won't go near that hole, nor will I touch the money." With that, the matter was settled. One day, a few cunning peddlers came to the farmer's house, selling beautiful porcelain dishes. The husband was out working in the fields, and the wife was home alone. The peddlers then said, "All right, madam, now pay us for these dishes." The wife replied, "Oh, brothers, I don't have a single penny with me, but my husband has buried all his savings under that tree over there. You can dig it up and take what you need. I have sworn not to go near that hole or touch the money, so I won't go there myself. But I can show you the spot from a distance." The peddlers, eager for the money, said, "That works for us. Just tell us the location." So, standing far away, the wife pointed out the exact spot where her husband had buried the money. The peddlers quickly dug up all the treasure, took the money, and in exchange left her with a pile of dishes before disappearing. That evening, when the husband returned home, he was shocked to see his wife sitting with a massive heap of dishes. He exclaimed, "Oh, you foolish woman! Where did all these dishes come from? Did you steal them? You don't have any money, so how did you buy them?" The wife replied, "Husband, I don't like your accusations. Why would I steal? I bought these dishes fair and square." The husband asked angrily, "But with what money? You had none." She answered, "I used the money you had buried in the garden." The husband's face turned red with rage. "I told you not to go near that hole or touch my money." The wife quickly said, "Oh, husband, I swear I didn't touch anything. I just stood far away and showed the peddlers the spot. They did all the digging themselves. Poor guys, they worked so hard to get the money." The husband groaned in frustration. "Oh, you've ruined me. Why did you tell those crooks about our money?" The wife replied innocently, "Well, why didn't you tell me earlier that I shouldn't reveal the spot to anyone? This isn't my fault. It's yours. You make the mistake and I get blamed for it." The husband sighed. "There's no point in arguing now. The real question is, what do we do next?" The wife confidently said, "What do you mean? What do we do? The peddlers left only a short while ago. If we hurry, we can still catch them. Let's go after them together." The husband was surprised. "For once, you've said something smart. Let's go find them, but who knows how long it will take? We'll have to chase them for miles. We should take some food with us." The wife agreed and packed some butter, cheese, and bread into a small bundle. Then, the two of them set out on their journey to track down the tricksters. After walking for a while, the wife got exhausted. She sighed, "Oh, husband, I'm too tired to walk anymore." The husband said, "All right, you take a rest here. I'll go ahead and you can catch up with me later." She smiled and said, "That's a great idea, husband. You go ahead and I'll follow behind." With that, the husband continued walking, while the wife sat down under a tree to rest. After a short break, She got up and started walking again. The path led through a narrow mountain pass, surrounded by trees. Their bark had worn away, revealing rough, wounded trunks. When the wife saw this, she felt deep sympathy for the poor trees. Oh dear, these poor things are injured, and no one is taking care of them, she thought. Feeling sorry for the trees, she stopped, opened her bundle, and took out some butter. Then she began rubbing it onto the tree trunks as if treating their wounds. Then a thought struck her. Since it's so hot, the butter might melt and drip off the tree trunks. To prevent this, she tore her bundle into pieces and wrapped them around the tree trunks. When that wasn't enough, she began ripping pieces off her own clothes to complete the task. While she was doing this noble deed, she accidentally tripped, and a piece of cheese rolled down the mountain. Curious about where it had gone, she bent down to look, but it was nowhere to be seen. Determined to find out what had happened, she decided to drop another piece in the same spot and carefully observe where it went. But just like before, the second piece also disappeared in no time. With a sigh, she gave up and continued on her way. A little farther ahead, she finally caught up with her husband. The poor man was exhausted from hunger and looked utterly miserable. When he asked for food, she pulled out the dry bread and placed it in front of him. He frowned and said, "Oh, you foolish woman, how am I supposed to eat this dry bread? We brought butter and cheese with us. Where are they?" The wife replied, "Oh, husband, I used the butter to heal the wounded trees. And as for the cheese, one piece rolled down the mountain, so I dropped another to see where it went, but that disappeared too." The husband groaned. "You are the most senseless person I've ever met. Who on earth puts butter on trees? Everything you do is completely backwards." The wife protested. "How was I supposed to know that trees don't need healing? If you had told me before, I wouldn't have done it. This is just like always. You make the mistake and I get the blame." With no other choice, they both ate the dry bread in silence. Afterward, they lay down under a tree to rest. As he lay there, a thought struck the husband. Did we remember to lock the house before leaving? Turning to his wife, he asked, "Did you lock the door before we left?" She replied casually, "No, I didn't." The husband sat up in frustration. "What kind of person are you? Go back right now and lock it. If you don't take care of our home, who will?" The wife, surprised by his anger, said, All right. Don't get so upset. The house isn't that far. You rest here. I'll go lock it and come right back." Saying this, she hurried back home. Once she arrived, another thought crossed her mind. "Since I'm here, I might as well take some food with me." She looked around, but all she could find were some walnuts and a jar of vinegar. She filled a bottle with vinegar, tied up the walnuts in a bundle, and stepped outside. She locked the door and was about to leave when she recalled her husband's words. He told me to keep an eye on the door, but if I leave, who will watch over it? The best solution is to take the door with me. Looking around, she spotted a hoe lying nearby. Without a second thought, she used it to remove the door from its frame, lifted it onto her head, grabbed the walnuts in one hand and the vinegar bottle in the other, and set off. After walking for a while, she thought, "Why am I carrying these walnuts and vinegar separately? I'll just put them on top of the door. It'll be easier to carry everything that way." So she placed the walnut bundle and vinegar bottle on the door, then lifted the whole thing onto her head and continued on her way. By the time she reached her husband, It was around 7:30 in the evening. He was utterly shocked to see her carrying the entire door. "Oh, you crazy woman! Why on earth are you carrying the door?" he exclaimed. She smiled and replied, "Husband, you told me to take care of the door. If I had left it behind, who would have watched over it? So I brought it with me." The husband groaned. "Oh, you fool! Watching over something doesn't mean you have to carry it around. I only meant that you should lock the door before leaving." The wife shrugged. "Well, if you had explained it properly before, I wouldn't have done this. You always blame me when it's really your fault." As they were arguing, they saw a group of men approaching. The wife's eyes widened. "Husband, look! It's those same peddlers. Let's catch them." The husband panicked. "Are you out of your mind? There are 4 of them, and only 2 of us. It's better to hide. Let's climb that tree and wait until they leave." So the husband and wife quickly climbed up a tree. However, the wife, even while climbing, refused to put down the door or remove the walnuts and vinegar from it. By sheer coincidence, the peddlers decided to rest under the very same tree. As night fell, the darkness was so thick that they couldn't see the couple hiding above them. They ate their meal, spread out their blankets, and lay down to sleep. Meanwhile, the wife had been holding onto the door for far too long. Her arms were aching, and she couldn't bear the weight any longer. She whispered to her husband, "I can't hold this much longer. I need to get rid of something to lighten the load." The husband hissed, "For God's sake, don't drop anything. If they wake up, they'll kill us." But the wife was stubborn. "I don't care. I can't carry everything anymore." Saying this, she took the vinegar bottle off the door and dumped it down. The vinegar splashed all over the sleeping peddlers. One of them jumped up in shock. "It's raining," he shouted. Another one sniffed the air and muttered, "But what kind of rain smells this awful?" The third peddler, still half asleep, groaned. "Oh, just go back to sleep. It must have been a few stray drops. The rain has stopped now." With that, they all lay back down and fell asleep again. Not much time had passed when the wife whispered, "Husband, I really can't carry this burden any longer. I need to lighten the load." The husband groaned, "Oh, may God have mercy. We barely escaped those men once, and now it seems our fate is truly sealed at their hands." But the wife was stubborn. "No matter what happens, I'm dropping this bundle of walnuts." Without waiting for her husband's protest, she untied the bundle and let all the walnuts fall down. As soon as the walnuts started hitting the ground, the peddlers below jolted awake, screaming in panic. "Hailstones! Hailstones are falling!" one of them shouted. Another one looked around in confusion. "But this is strange. Not a single hailstone is falling anywhere else. Only under this tree." A third peddler picked up one of the walnuts, inspected it, and said, "Look at this. These hailstones are black and as hard as rocks." The fourth one gulped nervously. "Friends, I have a bad feeling about this tree. There's something supernatural going on here. Let's leave this place." The first one hesitated. "You might be right, but let's wait a little longer. If anything else strange happens, we'll leave immediately." The second one agreed. "That makes sense. It's already so late, and packing everything up now would be difficult. Let's just rest for a while longer." So, after some discussion, they lay back down. But not long after, the wife once again whispered to her husband, "I can't carry this door anymore. I'm dropping it." The husband panicked. "For God's sake, don't! We're already lucky they haven't caught us." But the wife, as always, was not one to listen. With a loud thud, she let go of the door and it crashed down onto the sleeping peddlers. The sudden impact sent all 4 of them into a frenzy. "A ghost! A ghost is attacking us!" they screamed in terror. Without looking back, they grabbed whatever they could and ran for their lives, convinced that the tree was haunted by an angry spirit. Once they had vanished into the darkness, the husband and wife carefully climbed down from the tree. Seeing that the peddlers had left behind their belongings in panic, they quickly gathered everything and moved to another tree at a safe distance. Meanwhile, after running far enough to catch their breath, the peddlers hesitantly returned to investigate. They lit a lamp and saw the scene before them: vinegar splashed on the ground, scattered walnuts, and a broken door lying there. But most importantly, all their goods and money were gone. Their faces turned pale. "It's true. A ghost or a demon lives in this tree," one of them stammered. Another added, "There's no doubt about it. It must have stolen all our wealth. If we stay here any longer, it might come after us next." Terrified, the 4 of them didn't waste another second. They turned and ran as fast as they could, disappearing into the night, never daring to look back. For a while, the husband and wife remained in the tree, making sure the peddlers were truly gone. Then they climbed down, gathered their new fortune, and began the journey back home. By the time they arrived, dawn was breaking. Exhausted, they collapsed inside their house. The husband turned to his wife and sighed. "Wife, you may be the most foolish person I have ever met. But what can I say? Sometimes fools accomplish things that even the wisest people cannot." He shook his head in disbelief. "I thought we had lost everything and would live in poverty forever. But your foolishness has actually made us rich." The wife, with a smirk, replied, "Well, if you had told me earlier, I could have done even more foolish things and made us even richer. It's not my fault. It's always you. You make mistakes, and then you blame me for them." And with that, their strange adventure came to an end.